All right, so we're gonna start the party. Yes, we are. So welcome, Carlos, Nicole, and my name, for those who are in the room, that's who I'm talking to, and those who are on Zoom land. My name is Nadine Henry-Abbiw. Still getting used to the Abbiw part, just got married recently, right? So I still say Henry, Nadine Henry, but it's all good. So you can call me Nadine, you can call me Mrs. Henry-Abbiw or Mrs. Abbiw, either one I will answer to, right? My mom is Mrs. Henry, and I love my mom dearly, but we just want to make sure we differentiate, okay? And then I have the privilege of serving as a regional vice president with the company called Primerica, right? And as a regional vice president, I'm also a registered principal. What that simply means is that by taking certain qualifying exams with the federal government, I have the opportunity to also supervise other leaders that are investment licensed as well, right? To help the public make sure that they retire with dignity, have emergency planning, which is stuff we're going to talk about, and all the things in between, all right? And then when it comes to helping people buy a house, or if they already own a home, which we'll talk about too, I'm a mortgage loan originator, right? And then last but not least, and these things I'm telling you because I do need to share them, okay? Last but not least, from an investment standpoint, the investments that I will briefly go over in general are coming from PFS Investments, Inc. That's Primerica Financial Services Investment, Inc., okay? And my office here, as you can clearly see, and then of course, something is gonna happen with the TV. Wait a minute.
Just press the remote.
What is it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Press the remote.
Press it, anything.
Yeah, anything.
All right. This is gonna happen. All right.
Whatever you press, you put all of these should not have pressed.
It's okay. Is that anything?
I know, but it's definitely not have the anything. Oh my.
It's coming back. It's coming back. This happened to us the last time. So it's okay. It's counting down, I think. It's coming. Something's happening.
Did you change the input?
No,
The
I think-
channel?
huh?
The on off.
No.
What had you pressed?
I just pressed the plus for volume and then the power. That's it. Let's try this one more time. We did power last time, people.
Oh, this happened before?
Yeah. And it worked. So we'll see. I love technology.
I'm a DJ, so
Hi.
I love the technical issues and
Okay.
sometimes I act like it's part of the show.
And that's what makes us human. It's all good. Let's see if we can get it back on. No signal. No
Press
input.
something on the keyboard. Input.
I'm fixing it. Selecting the input using the input button or the notes. Okay. Input button.
Right there.
There we go,
Oh.
HDMI.
There we go. All right. I wasn't pressing the input button hard enough. All right. So as I was sharing, my branch office is right here in West Palm Beach, not very far from this beautiful library as well. It's about maybe a 15-20 minute ride, depending on traffic, right?
Columbia Drive?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 470 Columbia Drive,
Okay,
right off of Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard
okay,
and Village.
I see it.
Okay.
Feel like a carrier. Feel like, oh, I don't think you can really do that.
It's
Well,
okay.
Well, my main job is I carry in the city.
Cool. Don't worry,
I was like, I never.
No problem. Well, you see it tonight, right? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna establish some expectations, right? As we continue to converse today. So the first expectation is I want you to relax, number one, right? Then the next expectation I want you to have is I want you to open your mind to learning tonight. And then the third thing is I want you to have fun, right? We have quite a bit of things we're gonna go over. It won't be too intense, I promise, but we'll have a good time doing it. All right, so a little bit about myself and what we're going to be talking about is directly in alignment with the flyer, talking about achieving financial independence. So, Carlos, since you're here, you were talking to me before. I used to be a teacher with the Board of Education in New York. I also used to work in the hotel industry, right? In the accounting department, convention services as well. So when you say you have multiple jobs and different things, I can relate. So it's all good, right? When you think about achieving financial independence, what comes to mind for you?
Comes to mind for me,
Mm-hmm.
being able to travel to any country and then come home and have a home still.
Got it. So making sure you can travel the world, but at the same time, home base is taken care of financially.
Right.
Okay, cool. Alyssa, what about yourself?
Well, I'm starting to worry about retirement, so starting to think, I want to be able to, travel when I'm retired and live comfortably and, not have to worry. So, yeah, being able to maintain my continued status of living into retirement.
Got it. So when you decide to stop working to generate income, the savings and investments or however you structured your portfolio with your family, you want to be able to live off of that and not be concerned.
All right.
Summarize it well. All right, cool.
That part.
All right, got it. No worries. Everybody is, what I've learned over the years, is that everybody is very similar when it comes to their needs financially, but at the same time, I do take a very individual approach because the process is different for each person. There's a lot of similarities, but the process are different, okay? All right, so let's talk about how money works, right? As we're talking, you'll get to know me a little bit more because certain things you'll hear a little bit more about my story. So how does this relate to achieving financial independence? Well, question for you to think about. Has anybody ever given you instructions about money that we're looking to create this financial freedom that we want? Have you ever gotten it in school?
Cool, I feel like the advice I get doesn't work.
You're right about that. And I will use that to introduce a part of my backstory, right? I graduated magna cum laude, all the things from college, right, with my bachelor's degree. And I came home one evening when I used to live in New York, and I'm from the beautiful island of Jamaica. And my mom said, and my dad was like, come upstairs, you need to hear this. I'm like, I don't want to hear nothing. I'm tired, just came from work, what do I want to hear, right? So of course, between me being downstairs in the basement and coming upstairs and through the kitchen and then dining room, my face was doing all kind of things because I was very annoyed. Okay, but by the time I hit the dining room, good night, and sat there, kind of reluctant to listen when it comes to money because as I shared, I have an accounting background and different things financially. So I thought I understood a lot when it came to money. Oh boy, was I wrong. Right? Tutored accounting in college, all the things, right? But never understood some basic things that I'm going to share with you right now. So here, how money works, a common sense guide to financial success. Come on, click. All right, so table of contents. Ooh, that's click too fast. All right, so these are the areas that we're going to cover. Because when it comes to your overall financial independence, taking control is important. Anybody in the room like to be in control? Absolutely. Anybody, let's be honest. We could be honest tonight. Don't worry about it. Anybody like to pay taxes? All right, thank you, Alyssa. So understanding deferring taxes and doing it correctly would be important, right? All right. And then buying the right type of life insurance. That also affects your overall financial independence. Then we're talking about investment because guess what? We want to travel. We want to come back and our financial house is still in order. Where we live is still there. So making sure that we understand these things will be valuable. So here, we believe a financial education should be absolutely free. That's what we believe in Primerica. You shouldn't have to pay for a course to learn about money. At all. You shouldn't have to pay for a course to ask yourself these questions. How can I save for the future when I have so much debt? You shouldn't have to pay for a course. Can I ever truly be financially secure? I know this is kind of like different kind of thinking because we're taught like, okay, you got to pay for this and pay for that. But that's a part of the reason why I love sharing this information because somebody brought it to me freely. Okay, And I saw the crusade, and that's why I do it too, okay? So you have the power, okay? When you look in the mirror, you have the power. You have the power to actually become financially independent. And how do we do this? You don't need to earn a six-figure income, as most people would think, right? You don't have to have a high-level job. And you don't have to receive a large inheritance, which would be nice though. I'm not even going to lie. Or win the lottery, that would be cool too. Nothing wrong with that, right? But you don't have to have those things. So the other aspect of what we can do is we can actually get out of debt. I know that's kind of hard to think about, wrap your head around. Especially if you other people, I don't know, everybody in this room is debt free. I'm cool with that. But other people you might know, right? And build savings, we can do it. And then of course, get on the road to financial independence. So how are we gonna do this? As Carlos so honestly said, yes, we all like to take control, right? So we gotta take control of our money, right? So how do we take control? Well, the first thing we have to do, that's why I asked for certain expectations, we have to shift our mindset, okay? Paying yourself first. When you think about that, what are you thinking about? Anybody?
Pay myself first. What am I thinking about?
Pay yourself first.
Pay myself first.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question.
When you hear that phrase, pay
Pay
yourself
yourself
first, yeah.
What do I think?
Mm-hmm. It's okay if you never had it put to
What I
you.
think is, the money, it doesn't matter if I pay myself first.
Uh-huh.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. I knew it. Don't worry. I know how I walked through that situation too, right? Because that's the first thing we think about. How can I pay myself first? And there's not enough money at the end of the month. But here's the other side of the thought process in regards to paying yourself first. Put yourself as a bill. The mortgage is a bill. FPL is a bill. This is a bill, this is a bill. We have a certain goal that we want to achieve in the next 10 years, 15, 20 years from now. If we don't start to automate those things early enough and paying ourselves first, over time, you can gradually get there. But if we just keep thinking, oh, there's not enough, right? Adjust the third one down, adjusting your priorities. That also.
Please explain number 2.
Don't worry, I'm going back.
Oh,
I'm going back. I'm not necessarily going in order.
okay.
But paying yourself first, sometimes the reason why I jumped to that one, because what Carlos mentioned is not uncommon. There's not a lot of money left, right? But then sometimes when we actually start to look at how we're spending money, we realize, wait a minute, I could shift some priorities and there might be something there. Okay, so the second one.
I also think it's a lot easier to pay yourself first pre-tax than it is, post-tax. If you just have the money taken out of your paycheck, you don't even feel it.
Right.
You don't even know that it's really, you're used to it.
Right.
No big deal.
That's a part of automation. But what if you can also add to that another level of automation where some money does come out directly of the checking account and it's after tax dollars, and when you do get to a point where you quote unquote retire, all that money is tax free. You don't have to pay any taxes on it.
A Roth IRA.
That's one example. Yeah. So you could automate that too.
Yeah.
Right? So it just depends on what your needs are and where you are overall.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, it's easier when you're working, but what about the person who's a business owner? Right? Somebody that's a W-2, the government automatically, because they're not waiting for us to set aside the taxes to pay. So automatically the employer has to take it out of the paycheck. That's why that happens, right? But then on the other side, if somebody's a business owner, they can automate their savings, and depending on what's going on for them, there's a lot more that they can put away as a business owner. Okay, tax-free and tax deferred. So then know your need to accumulate by the time I decide I want to stop working for money. Ever thought about that?
Know your financial independence, in other words, the money that you need, not have to work.
Right. So between now and I'll use myself. So between now and 20 years from now, I'll be 62. So you know the numbers, right? How much money 20 years from now do I actually need to have to live on a $5,000 a month lifestyle?
About 20 years times, we're divided by 500 or whatever number it is.
That's a part of the math, yep. But then there's another piece to the math. It's called inflation. That's the part that we don't think about. Meaning, inflation is our buying power. If last year I go to the supermarket and I have $40 and I get, I'm just, okay, exaggeration, but work with me. 5 bags of groceries, but then this year, $40 is 2 bags of groceries, right? So those things are important. So having access where you can get this information completely complimentary is important, right? And it's based on your goals. So my goal may be $5,000, but your goal may be 3, or somebody else's goal may be 10,000 a month. And then somebody else might have Social Security and different things that they're considering as well as part of their income when they get to that point. So knowing your financial independence number as an individual and even as a couple is very important. Because the other thing we have to think about is how long, 20 years from now, I'm 63, how long am I gonna live? Right. And how long is this money gonna last? Right. So now you look at your family history. My grandmother on my dad's side is 90 to date. Right? And my mom's side, she died at 89. So from a female standpoint, I know I got a good shot in you know, 80s, 90s. So gotta make sure that money lasts. So that's another part of it. And then when we talk about changing the way we think, adjusting our lifestyle, sometimes we just need to earn additional money. That's also a part of that. Realigning your assets, avoiding the credit trap, and then setting goals and having a plan. So not only setting the goals, knowing what we want and why we want it, but we also got to execute that plan. Okay? So that's all a part of taking control. Oh, I moved too fast. Yes, I did. All right. So let's be realistic. There's things we cannot control, as you can clearly see. And then there's things that we can control though. Right? So we can't control the future of Social Security. Can't control taxes. Remember, we talked about inflation. We can't control none of those things, rising costs. The risk of a single investment, can't control that. We can't control our employer. But what we can control is our decision to do these things. Save for retirement, other sources of income, ways to reduce our taxes, maximizing our savings, saving more, and then diversifying your investment choices. So who wouldn't like to retire early? Is retirement about an age actually?
I would like to retire early.
Right.
But I just want to follow my passion, you know? I just kind of feel like jobs are just things that are tools that you need to survive, basically, but it's not essentially what you're passionate about. I mean, some people are lucky enough to have a job that they're passionate about, but I kind of feel like the majority of us, or a lot of us, aren't really happy in their job. So they kind of just feel like they're trapped and having to do it in order to survive.
Okay. That's one mindset that's really accurate, right? But then you can align, okay, I have to do this job for this so I can pursue this. And you could actually position yourself if you want to do both. Right?
Right.
Yeah. You can do that. It's just a mind shift. So you need something to stabilize you while you're pursuing what you're pursuing.
Right.
So you're right.
Of course.
So retirement.
I think that we fall into the trap of forgetting about what the dream was and just end up paying the bills because that was important to do.
Right. And then what I share with people too, as I mentor other leaders, is sometimes you just got to write the vision and make it plain. Write it where you can see it every day. And you could touch it every day. So while you go in to do whatever you're doing, whether you enjoy it or not, but because you're a responsible adult, you're going to do what you need to do, right? But at least the vision is in front of you. So what can I do today towards my vision, my passion? What am I doing to execute that? And that's how sometimes, Carlos, to just be real direct, sometimes we want the passion to happen like that. That's the undercurrent, Whereas really and truly, for some people, the process is a lot slower. And then also too, in that process, your character is being worked on. Because if you don't develop certain characters and certain things, when you do get that, okay, it's here now, you can't handle it. Right? So those are things that's also important. That's an aside.
So not getting any gratification isn't necessarily bad.
No, it's not bad. Because you want to be prepared for what you are going to receive, but you have to actually work at it, right? So even with retirement, that's why I talk to people, and their overall financial achievement is not overnight. It doesn't happen overnight unless you have an inheritance. And if you think about it, or win the lottery, most of those people within 2 to 3 years, they're broke because they never understood how money works. So this is why you're here. So you can actually achieve financial independence because you're learning the process, and then it's applying the process. Yeah. So don't beat up on yourselves, okay?
I know we're learning worst critic.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, it's really about how much money. It's not so much about the age. Yes, age has a factor, but it's not so much about that, okay? Because one of my mentors, he was talking about, oh, you know, when would you like to save $1 million? I was like, listen, can I do it in 10 years? That's crazy for people to think about, but it's not impossible, depending on what's going on, okay? So goal setting tips. Carlos help me with a little bit of that just now, right? So list your goals. See, list it. That means write it out. So we got to list it, describe them in detail, right? Get personal, write it down, why you're motivated to do it. And it doesn't necessarily only have to be a financial goal. Yeah, we're talking about finances right now, right? And then prioritize your list, because some things need to happen before other things. Okay? And then create a timeline, so things need time. All right, and then do that math. Do the math. So let's jump into paying ourselves first, right? Because we are the most important person when we look in the mirror. Okay, so let's talk about it. It's not what we earn, it's actually what we keep. Keep. It's right here. No. Keep. It's not what you earn, it's what you keep. Somebody could be making $40,000 a year versus somebody making $250,000, $500,000 a year. But the $250,000 and $500,000 person don't save anything. But the $40,000 person save maybe $10,000 a year. And over time, they outpace the other person. Yes, the other two people look nice on paper. So this is why I also teach people, don't envy your neighbors. You don't know what's going on. Let's work on you. Okay? So the math is simple. Your average annual income, so that's the estimate, right? The number of years you worked equals your overall earnings. And then look at how much you actually have personally saved. And then divide D into C. And then that's how you know. You could take a picture of it, but I'm gonna give you a website where you could actually download a book that will share all this information with you. Okay? All right. So, you got it? Okay, cool. So let's talk about this now, because we got to learn how to keep some of our money. Would you agree? Okay, so there are 3 fundamental accounts that we all need. Emergencies, they happen, right? Fast and furious. And then there are short-term goals, and then there's wealth building accounts. So emergencies, or anything I would classify anything between the 0 to 2 years. But from an emergency standpoint, setting aside minimum 3 to, depending on your situation, 6 months of your overall living expenses. That's an emergency. We just walked out of COVID. A lot of people lost their jobs. But if they had a 6-month, let's say, emergency account, that mortgage would still get paid, all the things would still happen. Now, depending on the person's situation, sometimes they need a year and a half, 2 years. And why? You know, because I see the faces like, why so much? depending on the person. If they're a business owner and they have to pay payroll and all the things, business still have to go. And you work for someone, you still want your paycheck, right? So that's important. And then short-term goals. This is a category where, I'll give an example. Like somebody wants to buy a car, or they might want to buy a second home, or they want to buy their first home for the down payment, closing costs, those kinds of things. Or any other goals that you have. That's within the next 3 to 5 years. And then this phone busy. Shh, I silenced it. And then you have the wealth building accounts. These are now where, coupled with what you have going on at work and understanding your financial independence number and what the gap is, then now we need to do other things to actually bridge the gap for wealth building. Okay, so annuity might be an option. Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, all the things we're going to talk about. Okay, because at the end of the day, I know Alyssa and Carlos, they want to travel and they want to make sure they're financially sound. Okay, me too, don't worry. All right, next area, paying off debts. I like to say it, debt is an acronym for don't ever buy things. We genuinely should not, because we're trying to possibly impress somebody else. Because they're not thinking about us, right? So that's debt, okay? And it depends too, because sometimes things can happen, loss of a job, all the things. So, but in general, that's another way of looking at debt. So when it comes to debt, the challenging news is this. Using a credit card, let's say, and the interest rate is about 20%. Yeah, Carlos doing, right? You spend $3,000.
All I ever hear, 20%.
Yeah, it's about, yeah, it's very high these days, right? So 20%, you spend $3,000 on the card and you pay minimum payments. Over the next 10.5 years, they would have earned on top of that, off of you, an extra $2,350. So what was a $3,000 purchase is now $5,350. So you see how challenging it could be if we don't understand the rules of the money game.
I think the other example, my car was at $4,500. And then after everything, I think I paid after the year's pay, it was $12,000. Well, $4,000 to $12,000.
Yep. And most
Never
times,
again will I finance a car. I did save some money.
right. And then most time that's when people learn that concept, but this is why I'm here to share this early, or catch some people on the back end. That's okay, right? So then here, there's different kinds of debt. Okay, there's revolving debt, and then there's a fixed debt. Revolving debt, meaning that every month, whatever the balance is, they're tacking on the 80% on that balance. Okay, then with the fixed debt, that 18% is the same, and then as you're paying it down, you're looking at the lower part of the principal, whatever you pay down. So it's not consistently keep every day accruing interest. Right, so it's really important.
Revolving debt is compounded.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And that's how credit cards work. Right? Car loans, mortgages, all the things. But you got to understand how to utilize it for your betterment. So we also teach people how to do debt stacking. And debt stacking is a way to help people accelerate coming out of debt. So how do we do that? This particular example, they're spending $2,720 a month on debt in these different areas. Right? So once we sit and look at what's going on in this situation, we say, okay, the first account that we need to focus on, everybody else gets their minimum payments, because sometimes we want to make an extra $5, extra $10 on the others. We said, okay, instead of doing that, focus on this one first and minimum payment everybody else. So credit card, retail card number 1 is paid off. We do a happy dance in the house. We don't add anything else to the card, right? And that $220 that was spent before paying off retail card number one. Now, credit card number two, the new monthly payment is $573. Yes, because you took the 220 from retail card number one and added it to the 353 on credit card number two. So what's happening now, credit card number two's company, like, oh, man, Nadine making more money and paying more. We don't care about that. We want to get you out of debt. They're not happy with you, but we're very happy for you, right? So then once you've done that, then you see it's kind of like a stairs going all the way down. And if in this example, they have a mortgage. So now then the last payment, once everything is paid off credit card wise, then the 1,427 will just be added on top of the mortgage. So now all $2,720 is going towards the mortgage. This is where for a lot of people sometimes like, oh, I don't know if I could do this. But once you see the first one down, whoo, then you get excited and keep doing the next one, keep doing the next one, keep doing the next one, right? And then people really see how they can get out of debt quicker. So I like to show both sides because, again, we have a choice. That's what the beauty of us being who we are, we have a choice. So without actually applying the information, if this particular family decides, I'm not listening, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, they'll be in debt for another 24 years. Those credit card companies and the mortgage will make an extra almost $213,000. They're still paying the $2,720 versus if they actually follow through. They're paying the same thing. It's just actually applying differently. So now they're out of debt sooner. That's including the mortgage. That sounds crazy. When I first heard that, I said, what? Because you're used to thinking the mortgage you're gonna pay for the rest of your life, right? But no, it can happen. So that's 15 years sooner. And they would avoid $130,000 that they get to keep in their pocket over the 9 years. Okay. Don't worry, I can show you. So then the power of debt consolidation. This is now how we help homeowners, right? So people who currently have a home and there's obviously equity in their mortgage, in their house, and we can utilize that to help them get out of debt even quicker. Because the reason why you see the percentages now, because sometimes people are like, oh, but the rates are really high, Nadine. With what's going on for me to do a debt consolidation, okay, let's do the average of all your credit cards. What's the average rate there? Is that outpacing what we're suggesting? Oh, yeah. You know what? Let me do a debt consolidation. And then over time, that actually helps them to do even better. And then their overall payments will be less. So combine all the things. So that's another way. But it, again, it depends on the individual and what works for that family. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When it comes to our credit, these are common mistakes that we make. Not valuing it. Sometimes we don't value it. But then when we are applying for a job, I remember when I was applying to work in the accounting department in the hotels, they actually ran my credit. Mm-hmm. They ran my credit.
So
That's
you don't qualify.
That's a part of their qualification process. So when you're interviewing, you already agreed for that to happen, right? So that's showing if this person is financially sound.
Right.
Because you're not working in accounting, you're working with people's credit cards, they're this, they're that. And we don't want somebody in a challenging situation and probably, decide they want to steal some money. So that's another way. That's just the real part of it, okay? So not valuing your credit is not a good thing. And then maxing out our cards, that affects that too. Not monitoring your credit score. The government has annualcreditreport.com. You can go there once a year and pull down everything that's on there. I do it to make sure, okay, yeah, that looks like me, and make sure nothing's going on. That's just once a year, but you have other resources to do different things. But it's just something I like to throw out. That's complimentary, free. Yeah, all 3 credit bureaus. Mm-hmm.
And
Equifax.
Right.
Don't worry, I usually blank on one of them too. Not knowing your interest rates and fees. That's another big one. And then not being aware of your total debt. So once you're aware, fully aware of something, you actually tackle it a little different. I don't know if you're like me, but I realized that. So, tips to rise in the credit score. Number one, what do we gotta do, Carlos? We gotta know it, right?
So here you go, yeah.
Know that credit score. And then number two, don't miss a payment. Catch up on overdue stuff. And there's no shame in having overdue stuff. That's most people do. But just catch up on it. Okay? And keep a low balance on your credit cards. And then don't apply for credit often. That's 5 tips there. So, the power of home ownership. So we're transitioning. So you see, achieving financial independence looks at the full picture. Because financial independence is just not just one thing. Because your money works in all these different areas. So, why is home ownership important? Well, building home equity. Right? That's one. And home equity simply means, okay, I purchased the house for, I'm gonna use an example, 400,000. And maybe in 5 years, depending on the market, now it's valued at 900,000. So now your home equity is 500, yeah, it's 500,000. So now you have the opportunity, if it makes sense, to get a loan against your own home. Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's called a home equity.
Yeah, a home equity, line of credit, home equity, yeah. Exactly,
We do it for home equity.
yeah. So that's the power of it, right? But I always like to
You
tell.
get it back in the sale of the house.
Mhm.
You put the money into the kitchen, and when you sell the home, you know, everybody wants to buy a home with a nice kitchen and a bathroom.
That's right.
So you put the money into the kitchen and the bathroom, you get it back supposedly.
Whenever you decide to sell, and if the market is really good at that time, and what's going on within the neighborhood.
So you do some.
You're welcome.
Plus, I'm doing with that.
All right. So when it comes to home ownership versus renting, okay? So now everybody's situation, as I said, is different. Okay? For some people, renting might be the best thing for them, right? For a season. And then they can go to home ownership. But then you also want to understand the advantage of owning your own property. So number one, we talked about it, building equity and wealth, okay? Then tax advantages. When you submit your tax, I'm not a tax professional, please talk to a tax professional, right? So the interest that you pay on the mortgage, that's tax deductible, okay? And then you can paint your house to however you want. You can do whatever you want, it's your house, all right? Then of course, the emotional benefits, making sure that you have a sense of pride. Some people have a sense of pride in owning a home. And then last but not least, stability, planting roots. When you purchase a home, a lot of times people are like, all right, this is here. It could be for a heavier home, it could be for the next 10 years, but you have a sense of stability in that area. So paying off the mortgage faster, kind of talked about that when we talked about debt. So I'll share with you my parents' story. So my parents, they actually do bi-weekly payments, right? Every 2 weeks, they pay towards their mortgage. So that actually accelerates the reduction of their overall balance. So if you know, okay, you owe 140-something thousand on the mortgage, let's just say. And on a monthly basis, I know this is not in Florida. I shouldn't say not in Florida, this is loosely, but West Palm Beach is a lot more expensive, obviously. But now let's say the mortgage on a monthly basis is like $1,500. Instead of paying $1,500 once a month, you could divide that into 2 and then pay maybe the 15th and the 30th. But the key with that is whomever the servicing mortgage company is, they have to apply the payment upon receipt. If they wait and hold the payment to the end of the month, the biweekly concept doesn't work. Right?
So you have to let the bank know.
If that's an option, yeah. Contractually for my parents, that was in the contract. Yeah, that was a part of the contract. But then you can, if you can talk to them and see if that could work in your situation. And then if it doesn't, you can still just add money to the principal, an extra $100 a month. And there's a for principal only. And they apply that, and that will actually reduce your mortgage payments over time. Okay? So just understanding how that works. Now, another area when it comes to money is discovering the rule of 72. So remember, as I shared with you, when my parents called me upstairs and my face was looking crazy and I didn't want to be in the conversation. This is where, for me, I really started to pay attention. I said, wait a minute, the rule of 72, I never heard of that. It's an old banking principle. And I'm going to show you how it actually affects our money. So I'm going to hypothetically give everybody $10,000 in this room, though you like me extra, right? So typically, where do most people save money? Just shout it out.
Where?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Where do people save money?
In the bank?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Just shout it out. It's okay. Yeah, right. That's typically where people save it. And then where do they get really high interest?
stock market.
No, not we know at the stock market, yeah. But at the regular bank, checking and saving, do we get
No.
No.
Checking savings, 3%,
right
1%.
or less?
Yeah,
0.000 something.
that's disgusting.
Exactly. So now let's think about that. Where we have $10,000, most people go to the bank. I'm gonna be nice and say the bank is giving 3%. The rule is really simple. 72 divided by the interest rate equals the answer in years. So 72 divided by 3, that's 24. So it will take 24 years for 10,000 to become $20,000. Now think about where we are age-wise right now.
You said 24 years?
Yes, sir. It's right there on the chart. See right there. 24.
4 years.
Yes. So now the question is, what kind of interest rates are on my money? Okay. Then let's say now another friend, they're doing something else. Maybe a CD or different things, and they're getting 6%, the average rate of return. The math didn't change. 72 divided by 6 is 12. That's years. So it takes 12 years for that 10,000 to double. But I don't know if you're like me. I was looking at the 12%. I said, lady, can we get to the 12%, please? Where do we get this 12%?
Yeah.
You said it already. Stock market.
Wow.
And over time, not overnight. I always like to tell people that over time, right? Over the last 30 years, the average was average interest rate about 9.64, right? But we're not getting 9.6, nothing in the bank. But when we borrow money from the bank, or the plastic things we carry around, not the debit one, the other one, is the interest rate 3%? No, it's 24. The store credit cards are 29. Sometimes people don't even know what the rates are. So we're taught to save and expect a little bit of interest rate. But then when we get a credit card or a car note or different things, the interest rates are really high. So the banking system understands the rule of 72. So that's why they profit. So now here, we all put our money in 3%, but then the bank takes it and put it in the global economy, stock market, and they get 12. So that 9% difference, we don't experience that. So that's why we make 20,000 in 24 years, and their separate account would have 160,000. So here we're teaching people freely to understand the rules of the money game. So when you go home, right? I don't know your individual situations, but when you go home and you start looking at your statements, look at the interest rates. And then you're gonna remember the rule of 72. What Nadine said again? 72 divided by 24. That's 3 years this thing would double on me. And then, okay, what are my investments doing? What's the average rate? Oh, I got a 401k on the job, a 403b or something. What's that doing? Because the rules work wherever we put it, whether it's working for us or against us. And this is another way of looking at compound interest too. Okay, so it pays to start early. So in this example, $1,000, $1,000. If your parents, at the time you were born, and I was born, right? They put away $1,000 in an investment account, because we know we're not getting 9% at the local bank. And from birth to 67, they never put anything else, just the 1,000. By the time we get to 67,
This is, of course, it is not taking into consideration any variability, you know, or any up and down in the market. And
it does take into consideration that.
no,
because-
it's 9% consistent rate,
No.
7 years.
Because over the last 30, with all the variations, it's been 9.6 something.
I have money that's.
It depends, okay, let's do this. It depends on the investment. And it depends on the fund that the money is in.
Right, well, this is based on $1,000.
Right.
9% rate of return for 6
An average,
Right.
not a fixed. Because here's the reality, if anybody that has an investment license can tell you, oh, I can guarantee you this rate of return, please run. Because the variables happen. 2008. Right?
And this is
Mhm.
it's a constant 9%
Right.
rate of return.
But it's a fluctuating promise. It says it is. But even on average, the last 30 years is about 9.64, thereabout. So this is, even though that says constant, it's about right, even with fluctuation. And again, that's what I'm talking about, looking at what you have going on personally. So in here, irrespective of, okay, I never seen this before. If your parents had set aside $1,000, invested it for you, and by the time you're 67, and it garnered an average rate of 9%, that's $406,000 off of $1,000.
That's left on our savings account,
No,
or
an investment.
an investment account,
Mhm.
when you get one of those. Any bank,
You can get it through a bank, you can get it through a company like myself, you can get it different places. But the thing is to have conversations so people know your goals. And that's the key part. Gotta know the goals. So this family wanted to set aside money for their person, okay? But then at 16, if they invested it at 16, you see the big difference. And if they invested at 40, you see the big difference in the end result. So what is this saying? The longer we wait, who's it affecting? And this is just an example from a child. But when we think about ourselves, that's important too. So compound interest is really important. So you invest it, it gains dividends, it gains capital gains, it gains all the things, and that's reinvested back. And then over time, that's what it will grow to. Again, I'm not going to talk about a specific fund, because then I would have to have prospectuses and all the things. So sitting down individually, you'll have the opportunity if you so choose. Okay? And then just a little bit more has a bigger impact. Just a touch bit more, right? So this the difference between saving $20 a month versus $100 a month. $20 in 10 years and $100 in 10 years. So that's an $80 difference. So this is why we talked about expectations in the beginning, adjusting our priorities. So we align what we are doing to look at our future selves. I'm not saying don't have fun as you're presently living. That's not what I'm saying. But then a part of your thought process is also your future. Okay? So an $80 difference makes a big deal. Okay? So it's really about the high cost of waiting. So don't pay it. So at the age of 25, if somebody wants to save $1 million by the 67, that's $177 a month invested. But if they wait 10 years, that's now $448 a month. Another 10 years, every month now, that's $1,200. And then at 55, that's almost $4,000 to accomplish the same goal. So the younger we start, obviously, the better. But then again, wherever we are right now and whatever our goals are, it's just better to just get started, even if it's a small amount. As we were talking with Carlos earlier, you know, have the vision and then chip away at it and be consistent. Same thing when it comes to our money. So can we really afford the high cost of waiting? Okay. Okay. No, we can't. So again, rate of return is important. Very important. 3, 6, and 9 from the rule of 72. Just so you can see it again. I see you reading. Okay. All right. And then doubling your rate can quadruple your savings. So again, it's understanding the vehicles that you're invested in or how you're saving and sitting down and really taking a look at it. Because there's nothing wrong with a financial checkup. So just a one quick quote from the usbank.com, saving versus investing. What's the difference? A healthy financial future involves both saving for goals in the short term and investing for the long term. So it's it's a conjunction. You got to do the two things. It's not one or the other, it's both. Okay? And then unless you're, so the last one down towards the bottom, unless you're independently wealthy, setting aside money today to see that you have enough for years down the road by starting a retirement fund is not an option, it's mandatory. Because when we retire, there's nobody to save us. And that's one of the areas where people are falling short. Okay? All right. So next area of transition, buying the right type of life insurance. What does this have to do with achieving financial independence? Huh? You come here to learn about that, right? It's not a sexy topic. I'm not trying to die. Right?
How are you gonna save money if you're getting life insurance?
Huh?
How are you gonna save money if that money is not being paid for life insurance?
Okay.
Now, like, one way to go over them.
That is a monthly expense for some people, or it could be an annual expense or semi-annual, depending, right? But yes, that's money going out. But here's the thing, let's look at it. What's the importance of life insurance? Because that's really what we're asking, right? So for a car, it's mandatory. You can't drive the car without insurance. So what does the insurance do with the car? If you have an accident, the insurance replaces the car, correct? Home, the insurance is supposed to fix whatever damage, depending on what you coverage and all the things, right? But if we're no longer here, it's called life insurance. We're no longer here. Does the insurance bring us back? No. However, what it does bring forth is the income that you no longer generate for your family. So if you have dependents, anybody dependent on you financially, life insurance is a must. Because if you're no longer physically here, we're gonna miss you terribly. But then if you don't have adequate and proper life insurance, that leaves now your dependents in financial bondage. As I've seen people lose homes, all the things, because there wasn't inadequate insurance to replace the loss of the income. So that's why it's not the sexiest thing. As I always tell people, I wasn't too keen with it either. Like, I had some, but I understand the need, right? And this is what we want to share with people. So what should you know about life insurance? Well, its purpose. is really about income protection. It's not for the individual, it's for the beneficiary. Okay, so it's really more of a selfless act. It's the last love letter to your family.
Mhm.
Okay, and it's also, your family don't have to pay taxes on that at all. So when it comes to your estate planning, that's a whole tax-free bunch of money. And they could do whatever they need to do, right, outside of the actual final expenses, right? What should you buy? Inexpensive term life insurance. And who should buy it? As I said before, people with others dependent on them. Okay? So here's what we believe when it comes to the need for life insurance over time, aka income protection, and the need for money over time. So the blue arrow, is that going up and down, up or down, Carlos? The blue arrow. All right. All right. And then Nikki, what's going on with the green arrow? Is it going up or down? She might listen. Alyssa, good. What's going on with the green arrow? Is it going up or down? All right. So the green arrow represents the need for money over time, and then the blue arrow represents the need for life insurance, aka income protection over time. So in the early years, you need a lot of coverage. Why? Most families look like this. They have young children, they have debt, and they have mortgage. So if whomever is bringing in income to take care of all these responsibilities should pass away, the loss of the income will be devastating, because in the early years, as Carlos mentioned, right, we have a lot of responsibilities, so the money is low. So you need to replace your income, so your rent coverage, until you can build up the investment side. So as life transitions in the later years, you better have money. Because now what's going on? Children are growing up on their own, like most of us in the room, right? The debts are lowered. We talked about that. Showed how to do debt stacking and all the things, so people listen. The debts will be lower, the mortgage is paid off. And then in the later years, you may not even need the coverage. So we believe in people should have insurance for a set period of time and have their investment strategy. So in essence, by the time they get to retirement, they become self-insured. So now they're completely debt-free, mortgage is paid up, kids are growing up on their own, they have no debt, nothing. Would there be a need now, Carlos, to continue to pay life insurance premium?
I would say not, that you have to pay it on one,
Right.
because, nobody depends on anyone, they can get their own insurance.
Correct. Exactly. And then you have a bunch of money sitting in your investment. So when you travel in the world and doing all the things, your normal household bills can be paid and all the stuff going on. Right? So that's the theory of decreasing responsibility. So again, it's in regards to needs. Okay? Come
How are we doing? We're running out of time.
We're doing good.
Okay.
All right. So how much is, huh? Yes, it flies when we're having fun. So 10 times your annual salary is a good rule of thumb.
Oh, question on the button.
I gotta press another button. Oh, Lord. What am I pressing now?
Question on the,
Okay. Let's see now.
what's the middle button?
All right, there we go. Thank you. So when it comes to insurance, how much is enough? 10 times your annual salary is a good rule of thumb. Because your annual salary takes care of 1 year.
Right.
So if you're no longer here 10 times, at least your family has 10 years. Okay? All right. So when it comes to the type of life insurance, there's two main types. There's cash value and there's term. Cash value, typically you have a higher initial premium. It includes a investment component. And then in the traditional plans, you either get the insurance or the cash. You never get both. But if you want where you can get the cash value and the insurance, you got to pay extra fees for that. Whereas with term insurance, you have a lower premium initially. You don't have any investment component. You can actually control your own investments. Remember we talked about who like to be in control. So we are able to control that. And you have pure death protection.
It's always gonna be on that.
Mhm, mhm. So, in essence, it's hard to determine, but we gotta remember, don't do it. So never buy insurance as an investment. That's not what it's built for. That wasn't the purpose. So just an example, whole life insurance versus buy term and invest, the difference. So 100,000, you're spending $123.16 a month, right? For the year, that's $14.78. Whereas when we sat with them, looked at their actual needs, realized you actually need $300,000 worth of life insurance for a 35-year term, right? Now you're paying $58 a month. And then that difference of $782, now we get able to invest that money separately. So when you look at the chart, at the age of 100, that family would get 100,000. If the person doesn't pass away, they'll get the cash. If the person passes away, they'll still get 100,000 only, but whatever is in cash value, the company's gonna keep that. But then here, when we do the term, okay, remember, only for a set period of time. So now we have invested $782 separate and apart. So now you have access, God forbid the person passes away too soon, you have access to both things.
We have both whole and.
Okay. I usually meet people that have both too.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So these are the challenges. And the rates of return is usually low inside the investment portion. And these are the warnings, okay? And here's the one, number 2 is one of the areas that I see in the marketplace where the people are told, oh, you can have this for your retirement, you could do this, you can do that, and it's tax-free. It's not tax-free. It's tax deferred. So the cash value inside of that is tax deferred, meaning that you pay the taxes later on that money that's saved up. It's not tax-free. Okay, and if the person should pass away, all that money that's in the cash value, the beneficiaries don't get the cash value part. They only get the insurance part. Okay. Well, we get it. We don't need to do experts. So just a quick example. Again, just to show you, $251 on a monthly basis. That's what they were covered for when we sat with them. Same coverage, but now they're paying $88. And the 163 invested in a Roth IRA. So now that's actually tax-free money. And now instead of 127,000, they have 300,000. Make sense? Don't worry, individually it makes sense. Yeah. Don't worry. I mean, this is a big overview. All right. Yeah, crash course. But then I'll show you the website. It's all good. So then the 3 nevers when it comes to buying life insurance: never buy any kind of cash value whole life insurance, including universal life. And then of course, never do it as an investment couple. And then never buy an insurance that pays dividends. Basically, in the insurance industry, dividends is an overpayment of premium. Meaning that you pay too much money. So they're giving you back your own money.
Wow.
In investing, dividends means that company made money and the board of directors said, okay, the shareholders that are invested in this money, we want to pass on some of the profits to them. So that's a true dividend. Okay, so in life insurance, you're just being reimbursed what you paid. So this is why having your policies reviewed are so important. Okay, and then experts say, Susie Orman, most people know her. In her opinion, there's only one kind of life insurance that makes sense for the vast majority of us, and that's term insurance. And then when it comes to taxes, right? One of the last areas, when it comes to taxes, and don't worry, I'll get you out here in time. Don't worry about it, I'm good. When it comes to taxes, deferment is a good thing. Meaning pay later, but you're still gonna pay the IRS, but pay later, okay? All right, so the lighter color means no tax deferral, blue means taxes on return deferred, and then of course your contributions that stays deferred until distribution. Distribution is a fancy word until you take it out. Okay, some people don't know that. So 10 years in, 20 years in, 30 years in, 40 years in. So taxes on contribution and returns deferred until the distribution. Remember I just talked about dividends? And how the shareholders, all right, so the return, that's a part of the return. So when you invest money in a tax deferred account, and if there's dividends there to receive, and usually most accounts, depending on your age, they'll automatically put the dividends back into your investment to protect you from taxes and all the things. Okay? So what you're looking at on the last one from 40 years out, or even 30 years out, or even 20 years out, basically what you put in plus the gains are reinvested back. And then by the time you get to retirement, you take it out.
And if the taxes on $2 million.
But you're not gonna pay taxes the whole thing. You're gonna strategically take it out. Okay, so, but like a better example. So when I sit with families, I layer them. When it comes to preparing them for distribution, that time when they get to retire, I layer their money. So that, okay, where's all our tax deferred funds? These are the ones we need to take out first. All the tax-free money, we let that keep growing. And then usually people get a little concerned because they're like, oh my God, I have all this money in tax deferred and then have to pay all these taxes. You're not gonna need all that money all at once. And typically, most people, by the time they get to retirement, their tax bracket is a lot lower. So in the beginning, you use an example, working, you make $5,000 a month, you put $1,000 a month into the retirement plan through your job. So now IRS can only tax $4,000. So that's the benefit doing it in the front. And you do that. Now you're at retirement and you want to take the funds from the 403B, the 401k, to whatever it is. You're not going to take out the whole thing, right? So we're gonna, you're no longer working at that job. We're gonna start to strategically do rollovers and put money different places. Some of it needs to be an annuity, right? Some of it could just go right into a traditional IRA, depending on what's going on. And then you have what's called a required minimum distribution. So maybe what you actually need just for monthly living so you can travel and keep the house afloat and all the things going on, you might only need 3,000. So now it's just 3,000 coming out a month. So now 3,000 times 12, that's the new amount you'll pay taxes on, not the 2 million. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't want that to scare you.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's not.
Yeah, but it's beneficial in the front to maximize tax deferment, and it's beneficial in the back for most people, because most people, when they retire, their tax bracket is a lot lower. Not everybody, but most people. Okay? So I don't want that to scare you. And then understanding deductibility versus deferred.
Did you do the same stuff in the planning for retirement?
Because that's a different one.
That was a different one.
Yeah, different conversation.
We definitely have to have you back to do this, how many works again, in 2 hours to go through it, just an hour and a half.
Right.
Because I can see, there's more.
There's more. So what we can do on the next time, right? We could do certain parts.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Carlos is overwhelmed.
He's staying on track, but at the same time too, I'll share the website.
Yeah.
It's called therealhowmoneyworks.com, and you could even download the How Money Works book and you could read through it.
I want you to teach it.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Okay.
I'm not saying I won't, Alyssa, but Zoom people, she don't want to lose me. Okay. But again, because yes, reading something is one thing, but then also understanding, if you have a question, you can ask. So I get it, right? And I'm more than happy to absolutely come back. So IRAs.
Don't worry, Carlos, she'll be back.
I'll be back. I'm loving every moment of this. So doing this up, you guys don't need this. I should have known this a long time ago.
I feel the same way. I feel like I'm investing correctly like a lot of the times.
And then here's the other side of it too. I am here, right? You can meet with me personally if you choose, or on Zoom, or you can come by the office. I'm cool with it. All right. So if you want that and more individual versus a group setting, I'm available for that. All right. It's your choice. So I wanna capture this and we'll end here, right? When it comes to IRAs, the IRA is really simple. IRA stands for Individual Retirement Account. So every individual can have one. It just depends on what's going on with you as an individual and what you qualify for based on your overall income, okay? And then the overall government has certain limits based on age. So this year, I know for 50 years and above, it's actually $500 more for
Yeah.
2024.
They should really raise it more than that.
I know.
Given how the rate of inflation is going up,
Mm-hmm.
the limit should be at least 12,000.
Yeah,
That's my opinion.
I know. We all have opinions. I will share something else offline. In regards to that. So traditional IRA, as you see, is tax deferred. It's deductible depending on your income, right? You have to start taking money out of it at 73. Because the IRS is not gonna let you just keep saving, and they don't get any revenue. So at 73, you have to, there's no age requirement here. And the IRA, tax-free, if it's held at least for 5 years. Okay? So that's one we'll pause at. Hi, people.
You know, what happened at age 73?
Hmm?
What happened at age 73?
On the last slide,
You have to start taking your money.
you have to start taking,